What if everything you've been taught about budgeting and wealth building is actually holding you back? Forget cutting lattes and clipping coupons. Those are the tactics of people playing not to lose, while the wealthy play to win. In a world rapidly changing, the old rules of money are breaking before our eyes. This video reveals the unconventional paths the truly wealthy are taking to build legacies that last for generations, not just paychecks. We aren't looking at how to save your way to $1 million. We're looking at how to architect an empire that outlives your name. Welcome to a different kind of financial conversation. On this channel, we move past the surface-level tips you find in every bookstore and dive into the high-leverage strategies of the financial elite. My purpose here is to bridge the gap between ordinary earning and extraordinary wealth engineering. We dissect the mechanics of profit, the psychology of power, and the structural secrets of generational legacy. If you are tired of being told to spend less and are ready to be shown how to build more, you have found your tribe. Let's rewrite your financial blueprint. Let's start with a hard truth I had to tell a client of mine, a high-earning surgeon. He was obsessed with his spreadsheet. He tracked every bag of groceries and every gallon of gas. He thought he was being frugal, but he was actually stagnant. I told him, "You are so busy watching the pennies that you're blind to the millions." Traditional budgeting is a defense mechanism. It's a scarcity mindset trap. When you hyper-focus on cutting costs, you are training your brain to see limits instead of opportunities. Historical data shows us that no great family fortune, whether we're talking about the Rockefellers or the modern tech dynasties, was built through saving. They were built through aggressive expansion. Budgeting often creates a financial ceiling. You can only cut your expenses to zero, but your income and asset growth have no limit. If you spend 4 hours trying to save $100 on your groceries, you valued your time at $25 an hour. A generational wealth architect would spend those 4 hours building a system, learning a high-leverage skill, or networking with people who can provide a $100,000 opportunity. Scarcity protects. Abundance builds. You cannot build a fortress if you are afraid to use the bricks. In the 1990s, wealth was 401ks and physical property. In 2026, the game has shifted to intangible and digital real estate. I remember a breakthrough I had with a young entrepreneur who had no real assets by bank standards, no land, no gold, but he owned 3 high-traffic domain names and the intellectual property for a niche software framework. He was generating more passive cash flow than my clients with 10 rental properties. Generational wealth today is found in intellectual property. When you create a book, a brand, a patent, or a digital ecosystem, you are creating an asset that can be licensed and sold across borders without maintenance fees or property taxes. Then there is the rise of fractional ownership of high-value collectibles. The wealthy have always used store of value assets like fine art or rare wine to hedge against inflation. Today, technology allows you to own 5% of a Picasso or a percentage of a venture capital fund that was previously reserved for billionaires. These alternative investments provide uncorrelated returns, meaning when the stock market crashes, your 1960s Ferrari equity or your private equity stake might actually go up. If you're only investing in what everyone else is, you will only have what everyone else has. This is where most people get uncomfortable. We've been taught that debt is bad, but for the wealthy, debt is a tool. There's a massive difference between consumer debt and strategic debt. Consumer debt is when you borrow money to buy things that lose value, like cars, clothes. Strategic debt is when you use other people's money to acquire appreciating assets. Early in my career, I was terrified of loans. I saw a mentor of mine take out a multi-million-dollar loan even though he had the cash in the bank. I asked him why. He said, "Claire, if my cash is earning 8% in the market and the bank is charging me 4% for the loan, I'm making a 4% profit on the bank's money." That is leverage. Generational wealth is built by using debt to amplify your returns. It's about mastering debt optimization, refinancing at the right time to pull out tax-free capital to buy more assets. If you are debt-free but asset-poor, you are vulnerable. If you are strategically leveraged in appreciating assets, you are an engine of wealth. Everyone talks about diversification. It's the standard advice: spread your eggs in many baskets. But if you look at the billionaires who built generational wealth from scratch, they did the opposite. They made concentrated bets. Andrew Carnegie said it best: put all your eggs in one basket and then watch that basket. Diversification is for wealth preservation. Concentration is for wealth creation. To build something that lasts generations, you have to find a mega trend, whether it's AI-driven energy, longevity biotech, or decentralized finance, and go deep before the mainstream catches on. This requires embracing long-term illiquidity. Most people want to be able to sell their investments tomorrow. The wealthy are willing to put money into a private venture or a land development project where they can't touch it for 10 years. Why? Because that patience is where the 100x returns live. If you need your money to be liquid, you are paying a convenience tax that eats your generational potential. This is the most important layer, shifting from personal security to a multi-generational system. In my consulting, I see a recurring tragedy. A founder spends 40 years building a fortune only for their children to lose it in 5. Why? Because they built money, but they didn't build a system. Generational wealth requires legal architecture. I'm talking about family offices, discretionary trusts, and family-limited partnerships. These structures do two things. They protect assets from taxes and lawsuits, and they govern how the money is used after you're gone. I worked with a family that had a family constitution. To get a distribution from the trust, a family member had to present a business plan or finish a degree. They weren't just giving their kids money, they were funding their kids' entrepreneurial spirit. If you just leave your kids a bank account, you failed. If you leave them a legal system and a financial education, you've built a dynasty. You cannot outsource your kids' financial literacy to a school that still teaches them how to balance a checkbook. One breakthrough I had with a client was when he stopped giving his teenage son an allowance and started giving him seed capital. He told his son, "This is $5,000. If you can turn it into $6,000 by next year through any legal venture, I'll match the profit." The son failed the first 2 times, but those failures were more valuable than a Harvard MBA. He learned risk, he learned loss, and he learned the cost of capital. Building generational wealth is a cultural project. It's about moving the family identity from consumer to capitalist. If the family dinner table talks only about what they spent money on, the wealth will die. If the conversation is about what they built or invested in, the wealth will grow. You aren't just a parent, you are the first CEO of your family's future. My biggest breakthrough didn't come when I reached a certain net worth. It came when I realized that wealth is a flow, not a pond. People who budget are trying to keep their pond from drying up. People who build generational wealth are trying to create a river. They focus on cash flow, on velocity, and on the movement of money into assets that produce more money. When you stop being afraid of the spend and start being tactical about the investment, your world changes. I stopped looking at my monthly bills and started looking at my monthly asset acquisition. Every dollar that leaves my hand must be a soldier sent out to capture more dollars. If you want to go beyond budgeting, you have to be willing to be misunderstood. Your friends will think you're being risky. Your family will think you're being obsessed. But they are looking at the next month. You are looking at the next century. Generations from now, your descendants won't remember the lattes you didn't buy. They will remember the systems you built, the assets you acquired, and the mindset you passed down. Budgeting might keep you afloat, but unconventional strategy will make you fly. It's time to stop thinking small and start architecting a legacy that stands the test of time. If you are ready to stop managing your money and start engineering your empire, you belong here. Hit the subscribe button and join our circle of profit architects. Let's build something that outlives us. What is one unconventional asset you've been curious about, but were too afraid to try? Whether it's private equity, digital IP, or fractional assets, let's discuss it. I'll be in the comments providing my advisor's perspective on the risks and rewards. Remember, the best time to start building a 100-year legacy was yesterday. The second best time is right now. I'll see you in the next video.